There's a reason most people avoid the truth. It's not because they can't see it. It's because the truth burns. It shatters the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, about the world, and about what life should be. Deep down, we all sense that something about the way we live isn't real. But we hide from it because illusions are comforting. They protect us from the pain of seeing life as it truly is. You've probably told yourself that hard work always pays off, that people are mostly good, or that everything happens for a reason. Those ideas sound noble, don't they? But look closer. They're not truths. They're emotional shields, stories we build to make life feel predictable and fair. The Stoics knew this thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can show me I am mistaken, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." But the truth does harm, at least at first. It tears away the masks. It forces us to confront how much of what we believe is based not on wisdom, but on wishful thinking. We cling to comforting lies because reality feels unbearable without them. We want to believe that good things happen to good people, that effort guarantees success, that love always conquers. But life doesn't work that way. People betray, effort goes unrewarded, chaos strikes without warning, and in that chaos, we are forced to face something terrifying, that we are not in control. The Stoics didn't run from this truth. They embraced it. They believed freedom begins only when you stop demanding that life be comfortable or fair. When you stop expecting the world to bend to your expectations, you finally begin to see it clearly. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." We live in a world that constantly craves more comfort, more validation, more distractions from reality. But all that craving blinds us to what's real. The more we chase illusions, the further we drift from wisdom. Facing the truth isn't easy. It means admitting you're not always the hero in your own story. It means realizing that your emotions often control you more than your logic does. It means accepting that people act out of self-interest, not purity. But once you accept these truths, something remarkable happens. You begin to see life without filters. You start to understand people not through judgment, but through clarity. You stop being disappointed by unrealistic expectations. It's like waking up from a dream. At first, the light hurts your eyes, but once you adjust, you see everything with sharpness and simplicity. That's what Stoic wisdom really offers. Not comfort, but clarity. Not happiness in the shallow sense, but strength in the deepest sense. The truth doesn't promise peace immediately. It promises awareness. And awareness is where real peace begins. Because when you finally stop lying to yourself, life becomes lighter, not heavier. You stop fighting reality, and you start aligning with it. The question is, are you ready for that kind of freedom? Are you ready to see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be? Because once you start down that path, there's no going back. You can't unsee what's real. You can't hide behind your illusions again. And that's exactly why most people never start. If you truly want to wake up, you have to start where the Stoics began, by understanding the force that quietly rules your every thought, decision, and mistake. It's not logic. It's not reason. It's something much deeper and much harder to control. In the next part, we'll uncover the truth about what truly drives human behavior, and why mastering it is the key to mastering yourself. You probably think you're a rational person, that you make decisions based on logic, reason, and careful thought. But that's the greatest illusion of all. Every choice you've ever made, every opinion you defend, every argument you've had, every moment of pride, fear, or regret was guided not by logic, but by emotion. Emotion is the hidden master of the human mind. Logic only arrives afterward to justify what you already feel. The Stoics understood this long before psychology ever confirmed it. They knew that emotions, if left unchecked, could enslave even the wisest man. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't talking about ignoring emotion. He was talking about mastering it, recognizing its pull before it drags you where you never intended to go. Think about how easily emotions control us. Anger convinces you that revenge is justice. Fear convinces you that safety is more important than growth. Desire convinces you that happiness lies in possession. And pride convinces you that being right matters more than being at peace. All the while, logic stands in the background, silent, observing, too slow to stop the storm once it starts. Most people don't realize how deep this runs. The human brain evolved for survival, not truth. Long before we could reason, we learned to feel. Emotions are ancient, older than language, older than civilization. They are your body's way of making decisions before your mind even gets the chance to think. And because of that, most of what we call thinking is really emotional justification wrapped in intellectual words. That's why people argue endlessly online, why nations go to war, why relationships collapse, not because of logic, but because of wounded egos and unhealed emotions. We live in a world where people believe they're thinking clearly, but in reality, they're just defending their emotional comfort zones. They don't want truth. They want reassurance. But the Stoic path is different. It demands that you face your emotions, not suppress them, but understand them. To stand before your anger and ask, what pain am I protecting? To face your fear and ask, what truth am I refusing to accept? That's emotional intelligence in its truest form, not pretending to be unbothered, but being so self-aware that no emotion can control you for long. The Stoics trained this awareness daily. They practiced reflection, silence, and detachment, not as escape, but as strength training for the soul. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That reaction, that moment between stimulus and response, is where all your power lies. Most people never find it. They react instantly, unconsciously, like puppets pulled by invisible strings. But the few who learn to pause, to breathe, to observe before reacting, they discover real freedom. Because they are no longer ruled by impulse, they become their own masters. So when you find yourself angry, afraid, jealous, or desperate, don't rush to fix it or hide it. Watch it, understand its roots. Every emotion carries a message, a lesson about your attachments, your fears, your illusions. If you can hear that message without being consumed by it, you've already taken your first step toward self-mastery. And that's what separates the ordinary from the awakened. The ordinary man lives as a slave to his emotions, thinking he's free. The awakened man feels everything, but is owned by nothing. But there's a darker side to this awareness. Once you see how emotions rule the world, you also see how people use that knowledge to manipulate others. In the next part, we'll explore how the most powerful minds, from ancient philosophers to modern leaders, use emotional control to gain influence, and how you can protect yourself from their invisible hands. Once you understand that emotion rules the human mind, the world begins to look different. You start to see that most people don't think, they feel, and then justify. And the ones who understand this secret, the few who know how to shape emotions, control the direction of entire societies. That's how manipulation works. It doesn't start in the mind, it starts in the heart. People aren't convinced by truth, They're convinced by feelings that feel like truth. Politicians, advertisers, social media influencers, they all play the same game. They don't try to make you think differently. They make you feel differently, and once your emotions are moved, your thoughts will obediently follow. Niccolò Machiavelli, the master of political realism, understood this centuries ago. In The Prince, he wrote that it is safer for a ruler to be feared than loved, because fear is a stronger motivator than affection. But Machiavelli also warned that power is fragile when built on cruelty alone. The true master doesn't rule through domination, but through invisible control, shaping what people believe, desire, and fear. Look around you. Every headline, every viral post, every advertisement has one goal: to hijack your attention through emotion. Outrage keeps you scrolling. Envy keeps you buying. Fear keeps you compliant. The modern world is not ruled by tyrants with swords. It's ruled by emotions that are constantly being engineered and fed to you. The Stoics would have seen this as the greatest test of our age. They taught that the man who cannot control his reactions is a slave, not to others, but to himself. Today, that slavery is digital, psychological, invisible. You don't even realize when your mood is being designed by an algorithm, or when your worldview is being shaped by a headline crafted to provoke your rage or your hope. And yet this isn't new. Throughout history, the powerful have always understood that to move the masses, you must first move their emotions. Julius Caesar used spectacle. The church used guilt. Modern leaders use media. Different tools, same mechanism. Control the emotional rhythm of a population, and you control their collective behavior. But the Stoics offered an antidote to this manipulation. They taught the power of stillness, the ability to observe emotion without being swept away by it. Marcus Aurelius practiced what he called emotional neutrality, a state where he could see manipulation for what it was, an attempt to control his inner peace. You can practice the same. The next time something triggers you, a post, a comment, a piece of news, pause. Ask yourself, who benefits from me feeling this way? That single question can break the spell. Because the moment you become aware that someone is trying to control your emotion, their power begins to dissolve. Freedom, then, is not about avoiding emotion. It's about reclaiming ownership of it. Once you can recognize when you're being emotionally led, you can choose your response instead of reacting automatically. That's what the Stoics meant when they said that the wise man is unshaken, not because he feels nothing, but because nothing outside of him dictates how he feels. The modern world will continue to manipulate emotions. That's inevitable. But awareness is armor. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose reason over impulse, you reclaim a piece of your power. And when enough people do that, control collapses, because control only works on those who are unaware. The Stoics didn't teach indifference. They taught freedom through perception. To master perception is to master life itself. But here's the real paradox. Once you begin to see through manipulation, you also begin to see the loneliness that comes with clarity. Because when you stop reacting like everyone else, you stop belonging like everyone else. In the next part, we'll explore the price of awakening and why the path of truth often leads to isolation. The moment you begin to see clearly, something subtle but painful happens. You start to drift away from others, not because you want to, but because awareness changes your rhythm. When you stop reacting to the illusions that keep most people distracted, you stop dancing to the same emotional tune that binds them together. And suddenly, the conversations, the habits, the routines that once felt familiar start to feel hollow. This is the hidden cost of awakening, loneliness. At first, awareness feels empowering. You begin to understand manipulation. You see through lies, you control your emotions instead of being controlled by them. But then you notice something strange. You laugh less at shallow humor. You feel disconnected from the constant noise of society. You find yourself craving silence, honesty, depth, things most people actively avoid. It's a quiet transformation. And like any transformation, it separates you from who you used to be and from the world that still is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." But when you truly live by that, you realize how rare sincerity has become. Most people don't want to be good. They want to appear good. They wear masks of virtue while serving self-interest. They chase recognition, not truth. And when you stop playing that game, you become a mirror, reflecting back to others what they're unwilling to see in themselves. That's why awakened people often walk alone, not because they despise others, but because truth isolates. The crowd bonds over shared illusions. To reject those illusions is to step outside the circle. You're not invited to the noise anymore. You've become too quiet for it. But don't mistake solitude for emptiness. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is the hunger for connection. Solitude is the realization that connection must start within. The Stoics saw solitude not as a curse, but as a training ground. They withdrew from the noise of the crowd to strengthen their inner fortress. Seneca often wrote about retreating into the self, not to escape humanity, but to understand it better. When you can sit alone and feel complete, you stop depending on others for validation. You stop needing the world to echo back your worth. That's when your peace becomes unshakable. Still, the process hurts. You'll miss the warmth of belonging. You'll wonder why others seem content, living in illusions that you can no longer return to. But every spiritual awakening, every philosophical rebirth demands a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is comfort. Truth strips away the false friendships, the hollow distractions, the shallow pleasures that once made life easy. It replaces them with stillness, self-understanding, and freedom. It's not an easy trade, but it's a worthy one. Because once you endure that loneliness long enough, something profound happens. Solitude turns into strength. You stop fearing silence. You start listening to your thoughts. You realize that peace was never something to be found outside of you. It was always waiting within. That's the paradox of awakening. The higher you rise in awareness, the fewer people you can share it with, but the less you need to. You begin to enjoy your own company, not out of arrogance, but because you've made peace with yourself. So if you find yourself walking alone, don't mistake it as a sign of failure. It's a sign that you've outgrown what once kept you asleep. The loneliness you feel isn't emptiness, it's evolution. It's your soul making space for something greater, truth, clarity, and peace. But solitude is only the beginning. Once you've detached from the illusions of others, the next battle begins, the battle within. In the next part, we'll explore how your own mind becomes your greatest enemy, and how the Stoics learned to master it through discipline and inner command. Once you've stepped away from the noise of the world, you begin to face a far more dangerous opponent, yourself. The mind is both a temple and a battlefield. It can be your greatest ally or your most cunning enemy. And when the world goes silent, you realize how loud your own thoughts truly are. This is where the true test begins. When you're surrounded by distractions, it's easy to blame the world for your restlessness. But when you're alone, you see that the chaos you thought existed outside of you has been living inside you all along. Every fear, every insecurity, every craving, it's all still there, whispering in the quiet. And that's when you understand why so few people ever truly awaken. It's not the world they fear losing, it's themselves. Marcus Aurelius called the mind a fortress. But a fortress is useless if the enemy is already inside its walls. Most people never learn to control their minds because they've never learned to observe them. They confuse thinking with awareness. They assume that just because a thought appears, it must be true. But the Stoics taught the opposite. They taught that your thoughts are not commands, they're suggestions, and you have the power to accept or reject them. Epictetus said, "You become what you give your attention to." Simple but devastatingly true. If you constantly feed your mind fear, it will shape your perception of the world into one of danger. If you feed it envy, everything you see will remind you of what you lack. If you feed it discipline and gratitude, even the smallest moment will feel abundant. Your mind becomes your master the moment you stop questioning it. That's why the Stoics trained like mental warriors. They practiced the art of observation, watching their thoughts without attachment. When anger rose, they didn't suppress it, they dissected it. When fear whispered, they listened calmly, then challenged its logic. This daily inner training built emotional armor, not to escape emotion, but to understand it without surrendering to it. You can do the same. Start with awareness. Notice the tone of your inner voice. Notice how quickly it reacts to pain, to failure, to rejection. Then ask, who is speaking, my reason or my fear? This question alone can change your entire reality. Because the moment you recognize that you are not your thoughts, you separate consciousness from conditioning. You stop being the storm and start becoming the observer of the storm. But mastery isn't built in a day. The mind resists control. It loves comfort, it craves distraction, it fears silence. That's why self-discipline feels like suffering at first. You're fighting a lifelong habit of mental laziness. Yet every time you resist an impulse, every time you sit through discomfort without escaping, you strengthen your command over yourself. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." That's what inner mastery is, a trial by fire. The more you confront discomfort, the stronger you become. The less you obey every impulse, the freer you grow. And here's the paradox. When you finally master your mind, you no longer need to control the world. Because control over the self is control over life. When the mind obeys reason, chaos dissolves. Fear shrinks. Peace becomes your default state, not because life gets easier, but because your inner fortress can no longer be shaken. But once you master your inner world, a new question arises. What do you do with that power? Do you retreat from life completely, or do you re-enter the world with new eyes? In the next part, we'll explore how the Stoics balanced detachment with engagement, and how true wisdom is found not in escape, but in purposeful action. Once you learn to master your inner world, the temptation to withdraw completely becomes strong. You might feel like avoiding people noise and the endless chase for status. After all, when you finally find peace within, why go back into the chaos? But the Stoics warned against this illusion of spiritual escape. They believed that wisdom wasn't proven in isolation, it was proven in action. Because the purpose of detachment isn't to run from the world. It's to return to it, unshaken, uncorrupted, and unruled. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, not a hermit. He faced betrayal, war, and endless responsibility. Yet even while ruling millions, he kept his soul anchored in stillness. He didn't abandon the world. He walked through it like a man who understood it. That's the true mark of mastery. To live among the storm without becoming part of it. The Stoics called this balance apatheia, not apathy, but inner calmness. A state where your emotions serve you, not enslave you, where you act not from impulse, but from reason. It's the art of moving through life's chaos without losing your center. Most people live in extremes. They're either consumed by desire, chasing every shiny thing that promises meaning, or they detach completely, convincing themselves that isolation equals enlightenment. Both are traps. One binds you to the material world. The other binds you to pride in your detachment. True wisdom lives between those 2 points, in quiet engagement. To be in the world but not owned by it. To love deeply but without fear of loss. To act with purpose but without the arrogance of control. Epictetus said, "Don't seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do." He didn't mean surrender to passivity. He meant acceptance, the strength to play your role in life without clinging to outcomes. Because freedom doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from controlling your reaction to it. When you understand this, action becomes effortless. You stop forcing. You stop rushing. You move with clarity because you're no longer trying to prove anything to anyone, not even to yourself. This is how the Stoics lived purposefully. They understood that detachment is not the absence of care, but the purification of it. You care not because you need something in return, but because caring itself aligns with your nature. You help others, not because it benefits you, but because it honors the strength within you. That's what real purpose looks like: calm, deliberate, rooted in values rather than results. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." When you stop chasing approval, you reclaim that wasted time. You stop reacting and start creating. You become intentional with your energy, selective with your attention, and humble in your strength. And soon you realize that the true Stoic isn't emotionless, he's fearless. Because fear only thrives where attachment exists. When you no longer cling to the illusion of control, nothing can truly shake you. Success and failure become the same. Both are just experiences. Both teach, both pass. That's the quiet power of living with purpose. You're fully alive, yet fully free. You play your role in the world, not as a slave to it, but as a conscious participant in its unfolding. So yes, you can walk among chaos without losing your peace. You can love without attachment. You can serve without needing recognition. That's the Stoic way, stillness in motion. But even with purpose, one more trap remains: the illusion of time. We plan, we wait, we say someday, forgetting that life is slipping away in every moment we postpone it. In the next part, we'll confront the most uncomfortable truth of all, that death is not our enemy, but our greatest teacher. Every human being lives with a silent shadow following them: death. We know it's there. We feel it in the passing of time, in the fading faces of our youth, in the people we've lost. But most of us spend our entire lives running from it, pretending it's distant, invisible, irrelevant. The Stoics refused to look away. They turned toward that shadow and stared it in the eye. They called this practice memento mori, remember you must die. It wasn't meant to scare them. It was meant to set them free. Because once you truly understand that death is inevitable, life becomes infinitely sharper. Suddenly everything false falls away. The ego's noise, the pointless arguments, the endless striving to impress people who won't even remember your name, all of it fades into silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." He wasn't being poetic. He was being practical. He wanted to remind himself that every moment could be his last. And that truth, instead of depressing him, made him more alive than ever. Think about how often we delay life. We tell ourselves we'll start pursuing our dreams when things calm down. We'll call the people we love when we have time. We'll forgive, explore, or create someday. But someday never comes. The clock keeps ticking, and before we know it, the opportunity has dissolved into memory. That's the real tragedy. Not death itself, but dying without ever truly living. The Stoics saw death as nature's final reminder that nothing is promised and everything borrowed must be returned. To them, this truth wasn't meant to bring despair. It was meant to bring clarity, to teach us urgency, humility, and appreciation. When you remember that you will die, you begin to live differently. You stop chasing validation and start pursuing meaning. You stop wasting energy on resentment because you see how absurd it is to carry hate in a life so short. You start to notice small things again. The warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter, the way silence feels alive when you're present in it. Life stops being a race and becomes something sacred. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But you cannot become who you truly are if you're constantly acting as if life is infinite. Mortality is the great sculptor of the soul. It carves away what doesn't matter. The Stoics didn't meditate on death to become cold. They did it to wake up. They understood that remembering death wasn't about obsession. It was about liberation. Because when you accept that time is limited, you finally stop postponing your existence. You start saying yes to the things that nourish your spirit. You start saying no to the noise that distracts you. You stop being so afraid to fail because you realize the real failure is never trying. And maybe, just maybe, you begin to live the way you were meant to, fully aware, fully present, fully alive. Memento mori isn't about gloom. It's about gratitude. It's a whisper that says, "You're here right now. Don't waste it." Seneca once wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing." That's not fatalism, that's freedom. Because when you truly understand the brevity of life, you stop trying to stretch it and start trying to fill it. But there's one final truth the Stoics knew, one that binds all the others together. Even in the face of mortality, loss, and chaos, there's one thing no one can take from you, the power to choose how you live. In the final part, we'll uncover that ultimate freedom, the Stoic path to inner mastery. The world will always try to control you. It will pull you with desire, break you with fear, distract you with noise, and tempt you with illusions. It will promise happiness in things that fade, wealth, beauty, approval, status, and laugh quietly as you chase them until you collapse. But the Stoics discovered something eternal. Freedom doesn't come from the world, it comes from within. Epictetus, once a slave, said it best, "You may chain my body, but you cannot enslave my mind." He knew the truth most people never see, that real power is not in domination or control, but in self-control. When everything outside you is unstable, the markets, relationships, opinions, governments, the only true fortress is your inner state. And yet, most people spend their whole lives trying to fix the external world while neglecting the internal one. They try to change others, but never master themselves. The Stoic doesn't do that. He looks inward and asks, what can I control? The answer is always the same. My thoughts, my choices, my reactions. That's the boundary line between suffering and peace. Because when you realize you can't control everything, you stop trying to. And in that surrender, you find serenity. The Stoics believed that virtue is the only true good. Not pleasure, not power, not reputation. Virtue, meaning living with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. You can lose your money, you can lose your friends, you can lose your health. But if you keep your principles, you lose nothing essential. This realization is both terrifying and beautiful. Terrifying because it means you are responsible for your inner world. Beautiful because it means nothing external can truly destroy you. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by war, betrayal, and death. Yet every night he returned to his journal, not to complain, but to master himself. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the Stoic secret, to live in a world of storms and remain calm inside. To walk through chaos and still choose peace. To be surrounded by noise, but not let it enter your soul. Imagine how different your life would be if you lived that way. If insults didn't define you, if failure didn't frighten you, if loss didn't break you, because you understood that everything external is temporary, you'd become untouchable. Not in a cold or arrogant way, but in a deeply free way. Because nothing could make you a slave again. Not people, not emotions, not circumstances. That's the final freedom the Stoics point to. The freedom to live according to your nature, guided by reason, anchored by purpose, and untouched by chaos. They remind us that peace is not found in control, but in clarity. Not in avoiding pain, but in understanding it. Not in endless pleasure, but in inner strength. You can live in a noisy world and still be silent inside. You can lose everything and still remain whole. Because the real empire, the one that never falls, is built within. So if there's one truth to remember, it's this: the world may not always give you peace, but it can never take away your ability to create it. The Stoic doesn't run from life. He stands in it, still awake and free. And when you learn to do the same, you stop existing like everyone else. And you begin to live like no one else ever will. Because in the end, life is not about escaping chaos. It's about mastering yourself within it. That is the true power of the awakened soul.